G'day, this is Gary007 and welcome to my channel. So without further ado, let's get straight into this video. So today's topic, we're going to talk about paladins on the Horde side predominantly. So what do paladins bring? Actually, they bring a lot of raid utility. You get a lot of blessings added to your group, which increases your DPS basically. It's like bringing a set of world buffs along with you to raid or to a 5-man dungeon. Makes a huge difference. That does make a large impact on the raid or the 5-man dungeon that you might be running. Also in PvP, they're quite valuable, these buffs. The salvation buff for a paladin, which is one of the buffs, reduces your threat by 20%. This is probably the most underrated buff out there. Most people in the raid don't like having it on them. They'd rather have like kings or wisdom or might, but at the end of the day, salvation is generally the first buff you put on the whole raid group, except for the tank. Do not put salvation on the tank. Don't make that mistake. Yeah, so, or you know, you'll end up having a boss wipe everybody, so you do not put salvation on tank. I've seen that happen. I haven't done it, but I have seen it happen in a raid. His tank was out there trying to get threat. Why am I not getting threat? Why am I not getting threat? Yeah, mate, you got salvation on you. Oh, okay. So, I don't know why I'm laughing. It's just this thing that happened the other day that reminded me of salvation. So yeah, Retribution Paladin. Let's get into it. The Retribution Paladin is, you generally put 45 points into Retribution, 11 points into Protection, and 5 in Holy. This is the PvE spec. This is what it looks like. Now, I'm going to skip past this because you're going to see a lot of guys talking about this is what you're supposed to do, this is where you're supposed to put your points, blah blah blah. So I want to get into more the stats side of things and what you need to look out for when it comes to gearing your Retribution Paladin, because finally you get a viable DPS class. So Retribution, the first thing you need to do, and this is the most important, this is like most classes, is hit rating. So you need to hit the 9% hit cap. You get 3% from talents from a pally, from precision, which is in the protection tree. So that means you need about 95 hit cap. You need to make that up in the gear somewhere, which is not too much of an issue. A lot of gear that drops will have hit rating on it. So make sure you try and pick up as much hit as possible. Once you hit that 9%, try not to go over it because it's just like a wasted stat. But you sort of know that already. Expertise is another thing. Now expertise is something you'll pick up with gear as you advance higher and higher with content. Now there's no cap on expertise, but what it does is it reduces the chance that a boss can, or you know, anything can dodge your attacks. So you want to reduce that chance of dodge. 6%, 6.5% seems to be, and expertise seems to be the sort of sweet point. The next stat you want to look into is strength. Strength scales, it's like 1 strength to 2.2 attack power. So you want to be stacking a ton of strength. You want to be looking for gear that has just strength on it basically. You got haste and armor penetration, which are both great. I spoke about armor penetration in my hunter video. So armor penetration plays a huge part. So you'll get for every 185 armor pen, you'll get a 1% increase in damage, roughly. That's how it works. That's how I worked it out in another video. The other thing you want to be looking out for is haste as well on gear. Now haste scales well with Seal of Blood. So Seal of Blood for the Horde scales really well. So this is what it looks like from the Horde side. Your priority should be strength, haste, and armor penetration. And that's the way you should value your stat priorities on gear when it comes to DPS. So how does haste scale with Seal of Blood? Seal of Blood, so if you had 5% haste on your gear, you get a 4% increase. If you had 10% haste, you'd get an 8% increase. If you had 15% haste on your gear, you get a 12% increase. So haste is really important as well on your gear. As long as you don't sacrifice strength, make sure you have strength and haste. Make sure you balance it out when you're trying to gear out your character. The other thing is crit and agility. Don't worry about agility too much. I mean, if you're picking up gear that has agility on it, like a back or something, you're going to put it on anyway until you find something better which will have strength or straight crit rating. You're looking for pure crit rating. You really want to get to about 30% crit rating for Retribution Paladin, so that you can stack Vengeance, and Vengeance is a talent that you spec into Retribution tree. Vengeance gives you a 5% bonus to physical and holy damage you deal for 30 seconds after dealing a critical strike. And it stacks up to 3 times. So that's why that 30% crit is super important to a Retribution Paladin. Weapon speed is the other thing. So the slower the weapon, the better. So anything below a 3.5% weapon speed is not optimal. You need the slowest weapon you can possibly find so you can crit. You need to crit. So when you're leveling and you're picking up weapons and you're trying to assess them, go for the slower speed. Anything that's a 3.5 or slower is the weapon that you want to get. Unless the DPS on the other weapon is exceptionally high and it has better stats on it, then obviously you'd go with the more DPS weapon, the DPS side of the weapon, if it was a faster weapon. But I'll let you weigh it out. At the end of the day, slower is better. The rotation for a Paladin is kind of simple. You put Seal of Blood on, Crusader Strike, and then you throw a Judgment, and then you rotate back. I wouldn't bother about macros. There's not really much to macro. You've only got 3-button rotation. When it comes to Avenging Wrath, now Avenging Wrath is where you're going to get a big DPS increase, and it's on a 3-minute cooldown, and that's your wings basically. As you see, Paladins, you try and time that with Bloodlust, with drums. Do a macro up so it ties in your trinkets as well, so you pop all your trinkets, pop all your cooldowns at once, so you get the maximum amount of DPS as you can out of your Avenging Wrath, or your wings. The other thing is auras. You'll keep it simple. Sanctity is the #1 aura that you'll be running as a Retribution Paladin. You won't be running any other. There's no need to. It gives you most DPS as well. And if you have a Protection Paladin in the group, it increases their threat considerably as well because it's holy damage. Seals. So, see, the thing about a Paladin is like a Shaman. Shaman's got 1 million totems, but they'll only ever have useful maybe 5 or 6 totems in total that they'll ever use. The rest of them are kind of useless. So when it comes to Paladins, Seals are like that. Most of them are useless. There's only a few that you will be using as a Retribution, and one of them is obviously Seal of Blood. I wouldn't be using anything else apart from Seal of Blood. It's the best DPS. It scales really well with gear. It scales well with your gear, with your haste as well. Yeah, so simple rotation. I wouldn't worry about macros. Strength is obviously #1. You need to stack as much strength as you can on your gear. Haste, and then armor pen. That's Retribution Paladin in a nutshell. But anyway, that's enough for the video for today, and yeah, thank you for listening to a knucklehead like me. Alright then, see you out in Azeroth. Bye.